Hey, what's up, ReLeader fam? Welcome to another episode of the ReLeader podcast. Just so you know, I'm excited. I'm in the works of maybe partnering and starting a podcast where I'll have a studio again. So I know for a while this has been kind of raw. I'm just in my home office every time, and maybe you're not watching them, you're just listening to them. But I know the audios probably could be better. I know the video could be better. So thanks for your patience. I just love getting content out, and I pray that it's a blessing to you. So if you don't mind, whether you're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, give me a comment, like it, subscribe. It helps get it higher up, which gets it more reach. Share it to your friends. Everybody knows a ReLeader. And so send that out to them too. So just honored that you're watching and listening. I got something I want to bring to you today that is something that I'm still processing. It's an idea, came up in a meeting I was having the other day. And we were talking about some changes that we're making internally, just organizational structure and strategy and how we do all staffs and things like that. And I can't remember if I made the comment or somebody else made the comment. It's like this, it's going to take a while. And then I said something to the effect of, it's like trying to get healthy. You always get healthy on the inside before it begins to show on the outside. So there's an inner work, right? There's something on the inside of us physically when we decide to start eating right, to start working out. Let's say if you need to lose 20, 30, 50 pounds, the inner part of your body begins improving before anybody around you sees it. I mean, you might eat good for 2 months before anybody notices. It's because something's happening on the inside that eventually works on the outside. And I just had this idea for a podcast. It's raw. I got some notes here. I'm just going to share them and see how it lands. But here's the title of the podcast. Are you ready? Here's the title. Be the doctor that your organization needs. Okay. So I want you to picture this way, all right? So if you're an entrepreneurial leader, you started it, you birthed it, okay? That means you started the organization, you started the church, you started your business, and it was a baby, you birthed it, and as it grew, you grew, right? So you have been able to grow into your organization as your organization grows. And the cool thing about babies is they're, for the most part, infants, toddlers, elementary, junior high, they are resilient, man. Kids, you can drop, I don't recommend it, but you can drop a kid. God made them tough, man. They're flexible. I mean, a baby, you can take their foot and touch it to their forehead because they're flexible. Their joints are flexible. And that's kind of how organizations are when you get up and going. Now I want you to picture, I'm 46 and sometimes I ache and groan when I get out of bed. My joints are not flexible as they used to be. I have joint pain. I have some things that are coming on that I can certainly deal with it, and I go to the gym and push through it. But it's not like I'm 8 anymore, right? I'm more susceptible to getting sick. I'm more susceptible to pulling a muscle. I'm more susceptible to tearing a ligament. And I kind of relate that to ReLeading. When you're ReLeading, you have adopted a baby, so to speak. It may be 10 years old, it may be 30 years old. Like the organization that I lead celebrated our 30-year anniversary. So you have adopted, or you're now leading, a very mature organism, so to speak. And so I think there's some beautiful analogies here as we ReLead, that many times we're taking organizations on that aren't healthy. And it's really important to understand that as the leader or the department chair, department leader, the director, whatever your role is that you're coming into, you're the doctor. Okay. You're the doctor of your department. You're the doctor of this organization. And what you really need to do first is understanding that this is going to be a journey. It's slow. There's going to be an inner working you're going to start doing the right things. And it's going to begin a process on the inner workings of your organization that will eventually show in your culture and to your constituent base. But you're going to have to start on the inside. But it's hard to start a process if you don't diagnose it first. And so I just played with this. All right, this may be terrible. I'll be able to tell by how many views this podcast gets. But I just played with this a little bit with the analogy of physical ailments, common physical ailments, and the similarities or the parallels that there are in our organizations. All right. And I think there's some cool stuff in here, but I just want to throw it out there. All right. You can comment and let me know your thoughts on it. All right. So the first one that I think organizations walk through is what I would call cardiovascular health. Cardiovascular health. This could be kind of said as stamina or pace. If you or somebody you know has had cardiovascular issues, an unhealthy heart cannot be pushed to the max, or you'll have a heart attack. Like something really bad will happen. And the same is true with our organizations. It needs steady, rhythmic or rhythms and cadence, not erratic jolts. So when you first come on as a ReLeader, you have to understand that in some ways, or maybe some departments within your organization are having cardiovascular issues. They're just out of shape. They have not. There's not a good culture. One question to ask yourself. Let me give it to you another way. I put in my notes. Ask yourself this question: is my organization breathing well? What are the cadences? What are the rhythms of the breathing patterns of my organizations? Let's get practical. Do meetings, do communications, if you're a pastor, do your Sundays feel rushed? Do things feel chaotic? Or do things feel steady and life-giving? You know if your organization has a culture of chaotic, stressful, you can't keep your head above water. The whole organization, the breathing patterns of your organization are just out of breath all the time. If you're out of shape and you say walk from here to the end of the street and you're huffing and puffing, I got news for you. You're out of shape. But somebody can run 10 miles and not even be breathing heavily. So there's this component, right? There's this in shape people have low heart rates. So my brother is a machine. My brother cycles. He's a very active person, one of the most active people I know, and his heart rate is insane low. What they find though is the best athletes, the most in shape athletes, have a very low resting heart rate. It means they're in shape. So what is the resting heart rate of your organization? Does your organization ever rest? That is one way to kind of measure, to diagnose. So as the doctor of your organization, diagnose the cardiovascular health of your organization. Okay. Another one, how about high blood pressure? High blood pressure. I would call this like managing stress and conflict in your organization. How does your organization manage stress and conflict? High blood pressure in the natural and the physical body is the silent killer. Here's the tricky part about high blood pressure. You don't know you have it until you get your blood pressure checked. And then the doctor's like, hey, your blood pressure is really high. So most people don't even realize it's happening until there's already damage done in your body. So maybe recall a season when you could feel the tension in the room. What does it look like to have high blood pressure in an organization culture? Many of us have sat in a boardroom before. We've sat in a meeting before where you could literally feel the tension in the room, that everyone's kind of bantering and everyone's being polite, but there's awkwardness, there's tension. It's like everyone's walking on eggshells because there's one or two people in the room that everyone knows. I'm hitting home with some people. So there's tension in the room. That is what they call high blood pressure. The medical term is hypertension. That's hypertension in leadership form, is when there's tension in your organization. And one of the best ways to lower the blood pressure of your organization, we've talked about this before, is be a doctor, be a leader who allows feedback. Okay, allow feedback. This feedback loop. I told y'all in a couple podcasts ago that we realized at Victory Church, we did some surveys and found out that our feedback loop is terrible, and people don't feel like they get good feedback, and they haven't felt like they could give feedback up towards the leadership. Guess what? Victory Church probably had high blood pressure. And so we are trying to alleviate that. We're trying to give channels of feedback. We're trying to give feedback. And giving and receiving feedback lowers the blood pressure of your organization because things build up silently. If you would have asked me 6 months ago if we have a good culture of feedback and how's the blood pressure of Victory Church, I'm like, oh, we're great, man. I feel okay. And it's the same in our physical bodies, right? You have high blood pressure and you don't even know it. So there's a chance that your organization has high blood pressure and you're the doctor and you don't even know it. So you need to diagnose it. You need to diagnose it because things build silently until things blow up publicly. Okay. So the silent killer of high blood pressure, you don't know you have it until it's too late or until there's damage done. So invite them to hit the release valve, so to speak, in your organization to lower the pressure, lower the blood pressure in your organization. And regular, honest feedback helps provide a culture for that. All right. So this is kind of fun. I don't know if you're liking this or not, but I am. Third one. All right. Third one. A physical ailment that can be present as we ReLead in our organization is arthritis. Arthritis. I would call this in our organizations, I would call this bureaucratic stiffness. Bureaucratic stiffness. And depending on what industry you're in, this is more prevalent than in others, maybe. Like in higher education, I spent a lot of years in higher education. Arthritis is very prevalent in higher education. It's hard to do anything. So the analogy here, physical analogy to organizational analogy, is stiff joints make simple movements painful. All right, I'll say that again. Stiff joints physically make small movements or simple movements painful. Bending over to pick up a pen that you dropped at the age of 60 or 80 is different than picking up a pen when you're 8. It's stiffness, and something that shouldn't hurt hurts. I'm 47. Sometimes I get out of bed and I'm like, I just hurt myself. I did a simple thing and pulled a muscle, right? Or my knees. I have a lot of knee pain from years of basketball. My hip flexors I'm in a season right now where my hip flexors hurt. So stiff systems make simple decisions impossible. Okay, so let's look at the two different ones. Physically, stiff joints make simple movements painful. Organizationally, stiff systems make simple decisions painful. So again, higher ed is very classic here. We have committees and subcommittees and think tanks, and it's really hard to make a decision. And there's a chance that you're in an organization that you didn't build. You're a ReLeader, and you feel like you can't move. You feel like you can't get any momentum. You can't. You feel like you know what it is. Your organization has arthritis. So you inherited a system where every small decision has to pass through 3 committees and 2 forms, and it's classic arthritis. How do I get through this? How do I process this? So as the doctor of your organization, ask yourself this question, all right? Where are we moving slowly because we're protecting comfort instead of pursuing purpose? All right? So I'll say it again. In your organization, where are you moving slowly? Maybe it's in a department, maybe it's in a system, maybe it's in a process. Where are you moving slowly because it's comfortable? We've just always done it this way. This is the way we've always done it. We're protecting comfort instead of pursuing purpose or pursuing better to make things better. So my doctor, I've had a couple knee surgeries. I have arthritis in my knees, pretty bad, scar tissue. And what my doctor tells me all the time is motion is lotion. Motion is lotion. Motion is lotion. So I'm avoiding high impact sports. I can't play basketball anymore. I can't run anymore, but I can cycle because motion is lotion. And so in your organization, where can you avoid high impact? You're not coming in like a bull in a china cabinet, but where can we create motion? Where can I remove a layer of a decision making? Where can I remove a committee? Where can I empower somebody in a greater way to make a decision without my feedback and without my input? So motion is lotion. We got to loosen up the rigid processes and remove unnecessary red tape. Okay. And some of this is the leader's problem because you have not delegated authority. You've created arthritis in your own organization. All right. So if you had an idea, or in my context as a believer, as a Christian, as someone who believes that the Spirit speaks to us, if you had an idea or if the Spirit prompted something today in your organization, you had an idea, you have a thing that you want to start, here's the question you have to ask yourself. How long would it take to act on it? How long would it take to act on it? Because your organization might have arthritis. All right, two more, we'll be done. Let's talk about diabetes. All right, diabetes. I'm no doctor. Diabetes is a balance of input and output. Okay, so think of it this way: too much sugar not enough insulin. So sugar comes into your body, it's converted into energy. If there's not enough insulin, there's too much intake and not enough conversion into energy. And so it develops diabetes. What does that mean for our organizations? Our organizations have the ability to develop diabetes. All right. This one's a little more complicated because I don't understand diabetes like I might the other ones. But maybe you have diabetes and you totally get this. But so let's think about it to paint a story. So an organization is addicted to consumption, right? The input, but the output is not that great. So what does that look like in our organizations? Well, let me think about in context for Victory Church. We realized that in some ways we used to be the church that did conferences, right? We did a men's conference, we did a women's conference, we did a first of the year conference. We would do all these different conferences. Those are massive inputs into the congregation or outputs out of our organizational energy and time. But the outcomes that we saw back did not equate to the amount of input that they were taking. The amount of effort, the amount of resources, the amount of manpower, the amount of money that we were putting into these things, we weren't getting the right outputs. And so we were developing, in a sense, a case of diabetes, where we are inputting so much into the organization, but our output is not equating to the growth and the maturity and the discipleship into our people that we thought we needed. So we stopped doing podcasts. We stopped doing conferences. We just stopped doing them. So we got to ask ourselves questions like, are we overfed and underactive? Are we overfeeding and seeing less activity? Okay. So we encourage leaders to measure what's being applied, not just but what's being learned. And again, I'm talking in my context. You'll have to interpret it into your context. But for the most part in the church today, we have an overabundance of content, but very little practice. They hear sermons all week, every week from their favorite preachers on podcasts, but there's very little practice. And if we're not careful, we can develop diabetes in our organizations. So we get to introduce this idea of, let's call it organizational metabolism. All right. So let's keep going. Honestly, I don't like that one as much as I do the other ones, but it works. There's some truth in that one. Okay, the last one's going to hit. All right. There's a chance that your organization has obesity. Okay. I would call this organizational overload. So physically, let's talk about our physical bodies. When we carry too much weight, it strains our systems. It strains our heart. It strains our joints. It strains our organs. It strains our stamina. It strains our ability to play with our kids. I mean, there's so many effects of carrying too much weight. So our organizations can do the exact same thing. We can get to the point where we're doing a lot of things decently, but we're not doing anything with excellence. So we have to ask ourselves questions like, what's heavy but not healthy? Okay, in your organization, what's heavy but not healthy? So we do a cultural calorie count. Every program, every meeting, every event, everything we do burns energy. This can be applied to ourselves individually. It can also be applied to our organizations, to our staff. There's so many areas that this applies. Let me give you a really practical example. Just this week, we made a decision to stop having a meeting that we've been having for 10 years, at least. So every Sunday we have church, obviously, every weekend. And then every Tuesday morning, we would have what we have always called a debrief meeting, where every campus pastor, every campus worship, whoever's kind of over worship, somebody basically from all departments. It's a fairly big meeting, usually over Zoom, and it's usually a 30-minute meeting, and there might be 15 people in there potentially, to have all the campuses represented in different departments and tech and all these different areas. And we'll debrief the weekend. What went well, what went wrong, what hit, what didn't, what complications did we have, what tech issues did we have. And then on Thursday, every single Thursday, we will have another meeting that we call the briefing meeting, where we brief for the upcoming weekend, right? So every Tuesday is a debrief, every Thursday is a brief. And we just, a couple of weeks ago, some guys on the lead team said, "Hey, John, I have an idea. It's just another meeting and they're valuable. But what if we just combine the two meetings, and instead of having two separate meetings, one on Tuesday and one on Thursday, we just have one meeting and it's on Thursday, and the first half we debrief and the second half we brief." So super practical, simple, small example of what it means to trim the fat. Trim the fat. What are we doing that we've always done that isn't necessary? What staffing have you always had that maybe isn't necessary anymore? Doing the same thing over and over again for the same reason. Maybe we can reshape things. Maybe we can change things. I don't want to get too deep into this, but what is AI going to change in the church world? I don't fully know, but I guarantee you it's going to create some great software, some great things for ministries, from some database things, from kids ministry, from curriculum. So as these things are introduced into the industry, whether you're a church or a ministry or a business or whatever you are, AI is going to change the game. So it will give us an opportunity. It's going to do good things. It's going to do bad things. But what area of your organization needs to trim? Okay, some excess weight. Carrying extra weight is not good for your organization. All right, so I'll close with this. You are the doctor that your organization needs. All right, it's up to you to diagnose. And maybe you've got other ideas. Listen, this came to me on a walk. I literally went on a walk and processed this and thought, you know what? I'm just going to make this a podcast and see how it hits. So diagnose your organization. You have inherited a patient. Okay, think of it in this analogy. You are the doctor. You have inherited a patient, and that patient is now under your protection. It's under your guidance. It's under your stewardship. You need to diagnose your organization. You don't have to do it alone. Get people with you, get wise counsel, pray, seek the Lord, but diagnose your organization, find out what's wrong with it, and apply the right quote unquote medicine to help your organization get healthier. All right. Love you guys. Pray for you. I appreciate you. Thanks for all that you do to communicate, to contact, to follow ReLeader. Again, subscribe. Follow, post on social media about it. I'll repost it. Honored to do so. You can follow us on the ReLeader's Instagram page. More than anything, go to releader.co, releader.co, and you can subscribe there. It's a free subscription. I have writings there. We produce content all the time. All right. Love you guys. Have an amazing day. Until next time, go ReLead something. Fix broke stuff. See you guys.